But let me back up. I'm 36 years old. I'm from Muscle Shoals, which is up in Colbert County. We moved here when I was 6. My dad took a church in Muscle Shoals. I come from a long line of pastors. My great-grandfather, grandfather, and father are all Baptist preachers, and I'm a politician, so I like to joke that I totally screwed that trend up. However, I do feel like I'm doing what I'm called to do. I graduated Muscle Shoals High School in 2004. Then I attended the University of North Alabama, where I set a record. I graduated with my 4-year business management degree in 2 years. No one's ever graduated UNA that fast. In fact, my brother had graduated high school 3 years earlier than me, but he took 5 years to complete college, so we actually walked at the same year to get our college diploma, which I thought was pretty funny. When I was in 10th grade, I was 16, and I started my first company, Infinity College Textbooks. It's an internet college textbook company. It did really, really well, and long story short, I sold it earlier this year. After operating it for 20 years, I finally sold the company in April. My wife said I had to let something go. I was too busy, and I wanted to run statewide, so that was part of the deal. I sold one of my companies. When I was 28, I started my second company, which would probably be a little bit more interesting to you than college textbooks. Gold Guns and Guitars. We have 2 locations, one in Florence and one in Huntsville. Both locations have done really, really well. Y'all, 2020 was a really good year for gun sales. Right? First, we had the coronavirus, so everyone went and bought guns. All right? And then we had the stimulus checks, and everyone took them and bought guns. And then we had rioting all summer long, or as the Democrats call it, peaceful protest. And even my mother came and bought a gun. For the first time in her life, my mom owns a gun now. Didn't have any 380 ammo to sell her at the time. Took several more months to get her that. But I'm glad my mom finally owns a gun. And then we had a presidential election. We had Joe Biden and Kamala Harris saying all kinds of crazy things about guns. So everyone went and bought guns. So the entire year long was just fantastic for gun sales, which is really, really good for me, not just because I sell guns to earn my living, but because I'm a big believer in the Second Amendment. And I believe that the more people who own guns, the more law-abiding citizens that own and carry guns, the safer we all are. So when I ran for the legislature in 2018, I knew one of the things I wanted to work on was your gun rights. And I'd grown really, really frustrated over the years, as you, I'm sure, were. We had Shoals' Second Amendment. We don't have a BamaCarry in my area. We have what's called Shoals' Second Amendment. I went to those meetings, and I became very, very frustrated with the lack of movement in the legislature on gun bills. In 2014, I was a volunteer campaign manager. I managed other people's campaigns from 2009 to 2017. But in 2014, I noticed something really interesting. Democrat State Representative Marcel Black got reelected for his 6th term with less than 60% of the vote. He got 59.7. And when I saw that, I knew that seat is going to be winnable in 2018 for the right candidate. So being the young campaign manager that I was, I went out and started looking for the right candidate. So I went and I talked to my dad. I said, hey, Dad, you're a retired preacher, little gray hair, good public speaker, good personality. I thought Dad would be a great candidate for State House. Well, I couldn't talk him into running. So finally I said, well, maybe I'll just run. So that's where that all started. In 2016, something really unexpected happened. I was 30 years old, single. I got onto a bus in Italy. I was taking a church history tour. I literally stepped on a bus in Italy and saw a pretty girl, so I took the seat in front of her. The first question she ever asked me was, do you like politics? I instantly knew I had found the right one. Now, it wasn't so instant for her, but it was a 17-day trip, and on day 16, I got her phone number, and she was from South Carolina. We got back to the United States. I immediately went over that weekend, met her family, and we had only known each other for 34 days, and she called me up. She said, Andrew, I hope I'm not pressuring you too much by asking you this question, but my church only has one weekend next summer that's not reserved for weddings. Would it be okay with you if we went ahead and reserved the church? And I said, yeah, I've been ready to marry you for a couple weeks already, so that's fine with me. So we went ahead and reserved the church, and we did get married a year later. Now, I warned Hannah. I said, look, are you okay with the first year of our marriage being me running for State House? Because if not, I'll wait 4 more years before I do it. She said, let's do it before we have kids. I thought that sounded like pretty good advice, so that's what we did. So we got home from our honeymoon. On our honeymoon, I got a text message. And a friend of mine said, Marcel Black is not running. It's a big shock to us. Here I am. I challenged a 28-year incumbent Democrat. Nobody was lining up to run against Marcel Black. It was an unwinnable seat. In fact, the Republican Party said, we're not even going to really bother messing with this seat, it's unwinnable. When Marcel Black dropped out, suddenly other people became a little more interested because now there's no incumbent in the seat. So I drew a primary opponent. A community college president stepped out to run against me in the primary. Now, the community college president, I think, assumed that everybody already knew who he was, and he made one big mistake. He never talked to the voters. And I remember going to Montgomery repeatedly and getting turned down, kind of patted on the head by the PACs in Montgomery and said, look, come back when you're a little older and maybe we'll support you. And I got a phone call from one of the biggest groups in Montgomery, and they said, look, we really like you, but we're going to go with your opponent. And I turned to my wife and I said, forget Montgomery, I'm done going there. We're going to go knock doors. We're going to go talk to the actual voters. There's no votes in Montgomery. So that's what we did. So primary day rolls around, and we got 77%. Blew them away. They had no idea that was coming. I didn't know it was coming either. I thought I might win, but I sure didn't expect 77%. So the majority leader calls the next day. He says, Andrew, what in the world did you do up there? We were not expecting that. And then they began to believe that seat might actually be winnable for a Republican. So they pledged to help me, and they did help me. We raised $180,000 for that race. As far as I know, it was the most expensive state house race in Alabama in 2018. To make a long story short, I won the seat 52-48. I was the narrowest win in the state house. I was one of the 5 pickups we had in the state house. The Alabama Republican Party gave me a total of $0 because they said the race wasn't winnable. So that's just a little bit about how I got here. Now, the first thing I did after I got elected was I contacted the Legislative Services Agency in Montgomery. And I said, I want you to begin drafting me a constitutional carry bill. And I said, you can model it after the one that Isaac Horton has been carrying. I'm going to pause there in the constitutional carry story, and we'll pick that back up a little bit later. All right, so I get to Montgomery. My first year in the legislature, there's 2 bills introduced to eliminate the state auditor's position. That's kind of shocking. It's not every day you see a bill introduced to eliminate a constitutional office in Alabama. So I went and did some research. What does this position do? Is this something we could live without? Is this something maybe we could trim government a little, eliminate a position, save some taxpayer money? I was kind of open to the idea. After researching the position, I came to the conclusion, absolutely not. That's a huge mistake. And by the way, if you ever see eliminating the state auditor on your ballot, and it would go to your ballot, it would be a constitutional amendment, please vote no. What the state auditor does is he or she tracks all of the state's property. I don't mean the real estate. I mean the stuff that the state of Alabama owns. Every pickup truck, every iPad, every shotgun, all the ALDOT equipment. $1.7 billion worth of taxpayer property spread out over 176 different state boards and agencies, all tracked by the state auditor. And we lose 1% of it every year, which is $17 million. It's especially concerning when we're losing guns. How do you lose a gun? Right? It happens. I'll tell you how you lose it. People are stealing it. And no one's being held accountable. Because if you go read those loss reports on the auditor's website, you will see all the stuff that's gone missing in Alabama. And how many cases have been prosecuted? 0. Jim Ziegler finds stuff missing all the time. Nothing gets prosecuted. Now, in the defense of our Attorney General, he's a little busy, fighting Biden's vaccine mandate and all that, right? He's got big fish to fry. You don't always have time to go pursue the guy who got fired from his job and didn't return his $1,200 laptop. Well, let me submit to you that if we don't start holding people accountable when they steal property from you, the taxpayers, it's going to get worse and worse. So we do all that. We track over $1 billion worth of property on less than a $1 million budget. The state auditor also appoints Board of Registrars members. This is really important because the Board of Registrars are responsible for keeping the voter rolls clean. Don't think for a second that Alabama can't be like Georgia in 10 years, where they're wheeling out suitcases of votes from underneath tables at 3 a.m. Okay? That could happen in Alabama. Nobody thought that could happen in Georgia just a couple of years ago. People say, what do you want to change about Alabama's election process? Not too much. It's actually really good. We have some of the best elections in the nation. Now, what we need to watch out for is not letting our elections get watered down. We had a bill introduced in the legislature this year. No excuse absentee voting. Who thinks it's a good idea to have more mail-in balloting? That's a really stupid idea. Where does the fraud occur in elections? Mail-in ballots. That was the problem in Pennsylvania and in Arizona. You know, if we would follow our Constitution, we'd solve a lot of our problems. For example, what does the Constitution say about Election Day? It says presidential election is the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November, every 4 years. It does not say plus a month of early voting. It does not say, well, as long as your ballot is postmarked by Election Day, and if it arrives within 10 days, then we'll still count it. It doesn't say any of that. The founders said we're going to have an election day. We've perverted the process and we're paying the price. I believe that if Donald Trump, if only legal votes had been counted in 2020, I think Donald Trump would still be president today. Now, on that note, in 2020, I was elected as a Trump delegate. My wife was also elected. There's 50 delegates from Alabama that go to the RNC convention. Kay Ivey announced that due to coronavirus, she was not going to be going to the convention, therefore she was not going to be seeking the position of delegation chairman. My wife called me up and said, Andrew, you need to run for that. And I said, Hannah, nobody is going to vote for a 34-year-old for delegation chairman. Like, normally your delegation chairman, like in 2016, it was U.S. Senator Jeff Sessions. In 2012, it was Kay Ivey. You know, no one's going to vote for a 34-year-old state rep for delegation chairman. She said, that's exactly where you're wrong. She said, people are sick of voting for career politicians for everything. You need to run for that. So I took her suggestion and I ran, and what do you know, I won. So I got to be the one to cast Alabama's 50 delegates for Trump at the convention in Charlotte in August of 2020. Really, really cool experience. When Trump arrived on Air Force One, we paused the convention. He got up and spoke. He said, I was flying here on Air Force One, and I said to my staff, turn on the TV. I want to see Alabama and Alaska cast their delegates for me. And I thought, wow, how cool is this? Trump was watching me on TV. Pretty cool. When I got home, I had an invitation from the White House, which I thought was fake initially. It turned out to be a real thing. It was an invitation to come to the White House the following Thursday, where Trump was going to accept the Republican nomination. That was really, really cool. It was on the south lawn of the White House. I'm sure a bunch of y'all watched it on TV. They had the fireworks in the sky on the Washington Monument at the end that said Trump 2020 at the end. Really, really cool experience. A year later, this August, I got a phone call when Trump was coming to Coleman for the Coleman rally. And they said, Andrew, would you like to speak at the rally? Well, yes, of course. And I said, I wish you'd give me more than 2 days warning, but yes, absolutely. So they gave me 7 minutes, and I got to speak at the rally in front of 40,000 people. Really, really incredible experience. I think it did a lot for my name ID, because I was down in Mobile, and I was like going into a restaurant, this guy coming out was like, you're Andrew Sorrell. And I was like, have we met? And he said, no, but I heard you at the Trump rally. So I thought that was pretty cool. So the one bill that I got passed this year, which was really, really important, was civil asset forfeiture reform. I'm not going to go deep in the weeds on civil asset forfeiture just for sake of time. This is another freedom and liberty type bill. You'll notice that theme on a lot of the bills that I carry. I'm trying to restore your freedoms and liberties that have been stripped away over the decades. And they have what I believe to be an unconstitutional process where you can lose your property to the state. You can have your property forfeited to the state without being convicted of a criminal offense. That's un-American. You shouldn't lose your stuff unless you're guilty. And if we can't prove you guilty, then you're presumed innocent. You get your stuff back. That's the way that the system should work. So I was proud to work with Senator Orr this year. We didn't completely fix the problem. I'd say we addressed at least 50% of it. And we got it passed on the last day of session this year. And Governor Ivey signed it into law. I think it was like May 25th that happened. So that's a quick overview of some of the things that I've done in the legislature. But now I want to talk about what you all really want to hear about, which is constitutional carry. So when I got elected, the constitutional carry bill had been carried in the House previously by a gentleman named Isaac Horton. He was a representative who chose to run for circuit judge rather than run for re-election. And he won. So I knew when I got elected that Isaac Horton was not going to be carrying that bill because he wasn't there anymore. So I decided to pick the bill up. Now, there was no competition, right? It wasn't like there was a line of people ready to pick the bill up. I think I was the only person interested in picking that bill up. In the Senate, Gerald Allen had been carrying constitutional carry with some limited success. Gerald Allen had passed it out of Senate committees. Gerald Allen had passed it out of the full Senate, I believe, twice, only to have it die where? Where did the bill always die?
Committee.
The House Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee killed the bill every single year. For the last decade, there's been one reason we don't have constitutional carry in Alabama, and it has been the House Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee, because they've killed it every single year. It's what we call a kill committee. You send it there, it never even gets a hearing most of the time. It's just dead. There's nothing you can do about it if you're a state rep. So my first year, I remember I was sitting at a table with other legislators, most of whom I did not know, and it was like our first caucus meeting. And somebody said, hey, Sorrell, we're all talking about what bills we're going to carry. Hey, Sorrell, what bill are you going to carry? I said, well, I'm going to do constitutional carry. And they laughed. They thought it was funny. Said, oh, okay, you're the next sucker who's going to do that crazy constitutional carry bill that never passes. Ha, 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 that's so funny. I didn't think it was very funny that only 6 other representatives cared enough about your constitutional right to co-sponsor my bill. I didn't find that funny at all. The bill went to public safety, and it died. It went nowhere in year 1. So that's where I started. In year 2, and really a lot throughout year 1, I began talking to other legislators and trying to understand their objection to constitutional carry. And I made some progress. I had some pickups. I had some people say, you know what? I think you are right about that bill. I remember Danny Crawford, for instance, from up in Athens, signed on to my bill the next year. I think he might have been the first committee chair to sign on to my bill. And we had a really important person sign on to my bill in year 2. It really took us a big step forward with constitutional carry, and her name is Connie Rowe. Now, Connie Rowe is important because she is the caucus vice chairman. So she's actually a member of Republican leadership in the House. And after extended conversations with Connie Rowe, she said, you know what? I'm going to put my name on your bill. And she did. And that sent some shockwaves through the House. Then she did something even more controversial. She took my constitutional carry bill and started walking around on the floor when we were in session and asking other people, hey, why don't you put your name on your bill? I just put my name on this bill, why don't you do it? Wow. That was a controversial thing to do in my second year. At this point, constitutional carry was very, very frowned upon by many. So Connie stuck her neck out for me, and I've never forgotten it. Year 2, with Connie's help, we bumped our co-sponsors up to, I think, 23. So we made a pretty big jump from 6 to 23. Year 3 rolls around. That's this year, 2021. I wanted to have more co-sponsors this year than I had in the previous year. And I accomplished that. I think I got 25 or 26. I don't remember exactly. I picked up a few new ones. But I knew my term in the House was drawing short. Here I am already in year 3 of 4, and we've not had a vote on constitutional carry. We haven't even had a committee hearing on constitutional carry. And Gerald Allen up in the Senate had the bill in committee, and it passed by a single vote in committee. And I thought, good night, we're getting to where we can barely even pass this bill in the Senate. And then the deciding vote on that committee got appointed to the Pardon and Paroles Board by the governor. So now I'm thinking, great, I don't even know if we have a majority on the Senate committee anymore. Things were looking pretty bleak. I was growing very, very frustrated that my bill was not even getting a fair hearing. So I devised a plan that nobody else, as far as I know, had ever tried in Alabama or had ever even thought of in Alabama for how to get a vote on constitutional carry. And it took me a couple years of being in the legislature to kind of figure out the rules. But once I understood the rules, I realized that I had an opportunity that I thought was not being taken advantage of. In the House, if somebody introduces an amendment on the floor, there are 2 options. The bill sponsor can accept the amendment, and then there's a vote, or the bill sponsor can reject the amendment, and there's also a vote. But either way, there's a vote. The third thing that could happen is your amendment could be ruled not germane to the bill. If that happens, you're out of luck. In other words, you can't go amending constitutional carry onto a bill dealing with education. Our rules don't allow that. So I had to wait for the right opportunity. I had to find a gun bill, a bill specifically dealing with permits, in order to try my strategy. So the strategy was very simple. Wait for a gun bill to hit the floor that leadership really wanted. Because if it was a bill they didn't really care about, they could just pull the bill off the floor, right? I couldn't allow that to happen. It had to be a bill they really wanted, but it also had to be a pistol permit bill. Well, in the spring of this year, I got my opportunity. I knew it was coming. It was that lifetime carry permanent bill that Randy Price in the Senate and Chauncey Robertson in the House was carrying. So I hatched a plan. I got constitutional carry redrafted, not as a bill, but as a floor amendment. And I planned to bring it and introduce it and force a vote. Now, I did not feel right about doing it as a surprise, because the 26 people who had co-sponsored the bill, I didn't want them to feel like I had betrayed them. I wanted to do this out in the open. I wanted to tell everybody it was coming. And I wanted my 26 to vote for it and know it was coming and not blindside them with it. So I began telling people what I was going to do. And that included the majority leader. That included Chauncey Robertson, the bill sponsor. And that included even the speaker. I met with all of them individually and collectively. And I said, look, I am really, really frustrated that in 3 years, my bill has not even gotten a committee hearing. So I said, I'm going to bring a floor amendment to constitutional carry, and we're going to have a vote on it. And they said, well, I mean, it won't pass. I said, I know, but I'll still have a vote. And then people can actually call their state legislator and say, hey, why did you vote against my Second Amendment rights? So that was my plan. So when I met with the speaker, I said, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to do this. This is not my preferred way of doing this. All I want is for my bill to be released from the hold it's currently on. I just want an opportunity. I want a fair shot to actually pass my bill. So I said, if you'll give me a fair shot, I won't do the amendment. Pretty reasonable, right? Just allow my bill to have a committee hearing and vote, and allow my bill to come to the floor if I can pass it out of committee. I'm not asking for anything special. I'm just asking for fair consideration for my bill. And I said, so if you will give me that, I will withdraw this amendment. That was what I said, all right? The answer I got back was no. So the next day, I walked in there, and there were a lot of people wondering whether or not I had the guts to do it. You know, there were a lot of people who were thinking, oh, hey, I don't know if Sorrell's actually, when it comes right down to it, I don't know if he's actually going to be crazy enough to do this. The entire chamber was in an uproar when I got there the next morning. Maybe 20 of them were super excited, like, yeah, go get him, Sorrell. About time we vote on this. There were another 40 of them that were like, Sorrell, what are you doing to us, man? This isn't how things are done down here. How dare you put us in this position? You're going to make it look like we don't support gun rights if we vote against your amendment. I was like, well, I mean, you kind of don't support gun rights if you vote against my amendment. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, the entire chamber was in an uproar. I wore the most obnoxious outfit I owned. I had white shoes and a bright red, like Rudolph red jacket. I walked in there in that, carrying my 3 copies of constitutional carry as a floor amendment, and they knew, as soon as they saw me, they knew I was serious. They knew I was going to do it. You don't dress that crazy unless you're just a little bit crazy and willing to do something a little bit crazy, right? That was my theory. So we were supposed to start that morning at 10 a.m. It's like 10:20. We haven't even begun. The entire caucus is just like I said, it was just chaos. And a friend of mine went down and spoke to the speaker, and he came back and he said, Speaker McCutcheon wants to speak with you. I said, okay, sure. So I went down front. It was me, the speaker, my friend who was Tracy Estes, Connie Rowe, some other, I forget who all else were there. There were 5 or 6 of us in a little circle there. And Speaker McCutcheon made to me an offer. He said, I'll tell you what I'll do, Andrew. He said, if you'll not do the amendment, he said, I'll get your bill to the floor for a vote next year. I had a decision to make. Do I pull the amendment, or do I force the vote? So I said, I can't make that deal without talking to some of my gun rights groups. He said, all right, well, let me know quickly because we're about to start. I said, okay. So I went out in the hallway and I called DJ Parton with the National Association for Gun Rights. And I said, DJ, here's the deal. I said, the speaker has told me that he will allow my bill to move, which is 2022. And he said that he would make it his personal pick. Which, what that means is if the speaker picks a bill, that's the first bill on the calendar that day. It goes right to the top. Bill number 12, a lot of times you don't make it that far on the calendar, you know what I'm saying? Bill number 1, you always make the bill number 1. So I said, DJ, what do you think? And after a probably 5-minute conversation, again, this is all like pressure. We had to make a decision fast because we're about to start session for the day. National Association for Gun Rights said, take the deal. I said, okay, I'll take the deal. So I went back in. I said, Mr. Speaker, you got a deal. 5 minutes after I took the deal, I got a phone call back from the National Association for Gun Rights. And they said, we changed our mind, don't take the deal. And I said, oh, no. I said, I already said I was taking the deal. I'm not going to be the one to back out on this deal. So I am not going to basically do what I thought would just be completely straight up dishonest. Just didn't feel right about it. There was also some talk about, okay, well, you made the deal. Why don't we get another legislator to bring the floor amendment instead? I didn't feel right about that either. That's still skirting around the deal. If you make a deal, you stick to the deal. The very next thing I did was I walked out the hallway and I called Eddie Fulmer. And I told Eddie the entire story of everything that I just told you, the entire story of what happened. Now, I apologize to you that I did not call Eddie first. I should have called Eddie first, and I would apologize to Eddie as well. The only thing I can say is I was under a really strict time deadline. I told Eddie what happened. Eddie didn't love it, but he understood. I went back in the chamber, and there was like a huge sigh of relief. I mean, everybody was just like, oh my goodness, thank you, Andrew. Thank you for working this out. I mean, it was just like the air was just let out of the balloon. And all these people start coming up to me, and they're like, Andrew, I'm going to support constitutional carry next year. Because you did that, I'm with you now. You can count on me now. So I started like, oh, great, okay, well, I'm like taking names down, right? Who's coming on my bill? 2 weeks later, my bill is up before the House Public Safety Committee. Chairman Treadaway, for the first time ever, agreed to let constitutional carry come up for a committee hearing and a vote. And he said, now, Andrew, don't embarrass me. He said, I don't want to bring this bill up unless you got the votes. He said, do you have the votes? And I said, no, I've got 6 votes on the House Public Safety Committee. It's a 15-member committee, so I need 8. So I'm 2 votes short. So I called the speaker, and I said, Mr. Speaker, here's the situation. I said, I appreciate you, letting my bill come up in committee. Appreciate you keeping your word, but I said, I'm 2 votes short. I could really use some help. There's 5 Republicans on there that I believe are no or undecided. I need at least 2 of them to vote yes so that I can get this bill out of committee. Would you be willing to talk to him? He said yes. When I came back the next Tuesday, I had my votes. In fact, I think I had more than I needed. The bill comes up in committee. For the first time in the history of Alabama, I passed constitutional carry out of the House Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee. Gene, I think you were there, weren't you?
Sure was.
Yep. I think you testified, actually.
I did.
We got that bill out for the first time ever. More progress than we've ever made. All right, now let's fast forward a little bit more. We're coming up on the 2022 session. This brings us to about 2 months ago. We had a unique opportunity because we had 2 special sessions. We had a special session for redistricting, and we had a special session for prisons. So I took that opportunity to promote my constitutional carry bill and try to get co-sponsors. Typically what I do is I wait till the first week or 2 of session, and I go around and talk to people then and try to get co-sponsors, and then I introduce the bill. I wanted to pre-file the bill this year. By the way, it's House Bill 44. I wanted to pre-file it this year, so I needed my co-sponsors done early because I knew this year was actually going to come up for a vote. So I began talking to my colleagues, and a bunch of them that had promised me they were going to support the bill signed on. We have 38 co-sponsors right now on constitutional carry. That includes Speaker Mac McCutcheon. That includes Pro Tem Victor Gaston. That includes Caucus Vice Chair Connie Rowe. That includes House Majority Whip Danny Garrett. We've got all the leadership is now supporting constitutional carry. And not just leadership, but other people who were on the fence before are now coming to the table and saying, I'll put my name on that bill. Another very important person on that bill, whose name you need to know, is Representative Shane Stringer. Shane Stringer is a representative from Mobile. And I asked him to co-sponsor my bill in 2021, spring of this year. And he said, Andrew, if I support constitutional carry, my sheriff might fire me. Shane is a sheriff's deputy in Mobile. A good one. He said, let me think about it. Next time he talked to me, he said, I've decided I'm going to co-sponsor your bill. I said, what if you get fired? He said, it'll be for a good cause. and he put his name on my bill. Then he even drafted constitutional carry himself and went and introduced it. Well, apparently that was too much liberty for his sheriff, whose name is Sam Cochran. And Sam Cochran fired him. By Sam's own admission, Shane is a, quote, good and qualified deputy. For no other reason than his support of your Second Amendment rights, Shane Stringer was fired by his sheriff. I have a lot of respect for somebody that will lose their job for your Second Amendment rights. Shane Stringer is a co-sponsor on my bill. So like I said, I have 38 now. Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth contacted me. He said, hey, we talked about your constitutional carry bill before. I hear the speaker's co-sponsored your bill. I hear you got all these people, 38 people on your bill or whatever. He said, I want to publicly support your bill. What can I do? I said, well, I'd really appreciate it if we could get a photo together, put it up on Facebook. We can probably get a news article out of it as well. So that's what we did. I went up to his office. We took a picture together, standing there with the constitutional carry bill. He wrote up a nice little blurb about why he supported it, and he put it up on Facebook. Sure enough, Yellowhammer News picked it up and ran a statewide news article on. I guest hosted the Jeff Poore show in Mobile last week for 3 hours. I had Will Ainsworth on. We talked about constitutional carry. So the Lieutenant Governor is now publicly supporting constitutional carry and helping me push it. I've had 2 congressmen come out publicly in support of constitutional carry. That would be Mo Brooks and Barry Moore. Really, really appreciate those 3 high-level officials coming out and taking an interest in constitutional carry and helping me kind of build the momentum. So that brings us to where we are now. I pre-filed the bill the week of Thanksgiving. It's House Bill 44. It may or may not be available online. It depends on if it's been assigned to committee or not. It doesn't show up there until it's got a committee assignment. And when we're not in session, sometimes that can take a few weeks. But nonetheless, it's the same bill I've always carried. Virtually no changes from the previous 3 years. It's House Bill 44, so when it populates there, you'll be able to see it. So that's where we are now. So some of you may think I made the right decision making the deal. Some of you may think I made the wrong decision making the deal. That's okay. I just hope you understand at least my side of the story and why I felt like I needed to make the deal. I made the choice that I thought was best to actually pass constitutional carry, not to just get a vote. I could have had a vote. I could have had a vote in April. I could have forced it and had a vote on the amendment, and it would have failed, and we'd have had everybody on record. I guess that would have been some kind of small victory. I chose to go for the big victory, and I think it's going to pay off because I've had meetings with leadership, and I've been assured that bill will be on the House floor early. I expect it in the first 2 weeks of session, that bill to fly out of committee and that bill to hit the House floor and us to pass it out of the House. That's what I expect to happen. The Senate has passed it twice before. However, they've not passed it this quadrennium. Not with this group of senators. They have never voted on this bill. So we don't need to take the Senate for granted. But I think the Senate will pass the bill as well. And what's happening now is, now that people sense that constitutional carry is about to pass, everybody wants to carry constitutional carry now. Everybody's getting the constitutional carry bill drafted and introducing it. To which I say, great. As long as it's a good, clean bill, drop it. I don't care. This just further makes my case that we're really, really close on getting this bill done this year. Shane Stringer is carrying constitutional carry. He's also got like 35 co-sponsors on his bill, including me. I put my name on his bill. He put his name on my bill. Because for me and Shane, it's not about whose name is on the bill when it passes. It's about getting the bill passed. If Shane gets the credit, if I get the credit, if a senator passes their bill and gets the credit, who cares? What I care about is the fact that when my wife moved here, she took my car to Walmart right after we were married, and I realized I've got a gun in the glove box. And Hannah didn't have a permit yet. My wife would have been a gun criminal under Alabama law if she had been caught with that gun. How absurd is that? That's what I care about. I don't care who gets the credit. I care if we get the bill passed or not. We don't have time to be petty in Montgomery. Not on this bill. It's too important. So it may be Shane Stringer's bill that passes. It may be Senator Tim Nelson's bill that passes. I'm going to support any good, clean constitutional carry bill. Now, if the process gets perverted, if they start putting bad amendments on the bill, I'm going to be down there at the well fighting the bad amendments. And if the bill gets bad enough, I will literally try to kill the bill myself. And I think that me and my 38 co-sponsors carry enough weight that we can kill the bill if need be. If we're going to do constitutional carry, we're going to do it right. We're not going to pass some weak, watered-down bill. We're not going to have exceptions in there. Oh, well, if you need to carry at a high school football game, you still need a permit. None of that nonsense. If you're a law-abiding citizen, you can carry a gun. That's what the bill says, right? Our gun laws are so messed up, y'all. Y'all know this. I'm preaching to the choir here. You can get in your car with a fully loaded AR-15, AK-47. It's perfectly legal. You get in your car with a little single-shot 22 Derringer in your pocket, you're a criminal under Alabama law. You can walk right out this door with a gun strapped to your hip. Open carry, perfectly legal. If you dress like me and you wear a coat over it, maybe it's cold, it's December, criminal under Alabama law. It's nothing more than a tax on wearing a coat. We've got to get constitutional carry. I know there's like 20 other good gun bills that BamaCarry needs passed because I've been sent a list of them by Eddie Fulmer. For instance, there's a bill, you can't have a cane gun in Alabama. They're not legal, right? All right, well, look, you ought to be able to carry your cane gun. I'm going to support your right to carry your cane gun, but I'm not getting too many calls about people upset they can't carry their cane gun, okay? Let's address the big issue. Let's get constitutional carry, and then we'll work our way down the list. The other 20 will go real easy if we get this one, trust me. So that's the full overview of where we're at with constitutional carry. Now back to my state auditor's race for a second. I have decided I'm going to run statewide in 2022. Very much appreciate your consideration. I still have 11 months left in the legislature. I would like to see the project through on constitutional carry, and I believe we will see it through this year. I put our odds of success probably 90%. I'm very, very confident we will pass constitutional carry this year, and I think it will be because of the groundwork that I laid for the last 3 years, building support in the House, and because of the deal that I made. And I think the Speaker intends to keep this deal. I think he's going to be true to his word. I think we're going to get that bill out of committee and on the House floor for a vote, and I think it'll pass when we get the vote. If it does not pass, there was not a promise made the bill would pass. That wasn't the deal. The deal was it would come to the floor. If a bunch of Republicans want to vote no on a gun bill 2 months before their primary, that's on them. Right? That problem will solve itself. And that'll be up to y'all at BamaCarry to help solve that problem. I'm not out to get anybody. I don't want to see any of my colleagues lose. But I do want to see my colleagues stand up for your Second Amendment rights. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Pretty clear, right? We don't sell you your other constitutional rights back. We don't sell you your right to vote by charging you a poll tax. We don't sell you your right to free speech and require a free speech card because speech is dangerous, so we need to regulate it. We need to make sure you have a clean background before you post on Facebook. We wouldn't put up with any of that. Why would we put up with that with our Second Amendment rights? So I appreciate your consideration for State Auditor. I will be happy to take questions about my service in the legislature, about constitutional carry, about the State Auditor's Office, all of the above. By the way, I'm a brand new father. Just had my first child 7 weeks ago. Very excited about that. And y'all, I love Liberty so much, I named my daughter Liberty, okay? So, feel free to hit me with any questions. I'm going to lose this jacket because it's hot up here with this buffet. Yes. Yes.
That's when still here's the one he got passed last time. With the 5-year permit deal.
So, constitutional carry does not eliminate the permit process, as you know. Proncy Robertson passed a lifetime carry permit bill. I have no problem with having a lifetime permit option. That's fine. In fact, I'll probably get the lifetime permit because I hate going and renewing it. And yes, I will still have a permit even if constitutional carry passes, because as y'all know, you still need it when you go out of state. We can't do anything about that in Alabama. That's going to have to be a federal law to eliminate that. Basically, I voted against Proncy's bill because it had a database in it. It was a database of prohibited persons. Now, the year before, it was a database of law-abiding citizens and permit holders. I was rabidly opposed to that, and I helped kill that bill. I talked to everybody in the House and told them to vote no on that bill. We don't need a database in a gun bill. The next year, they came back and they changed it, and they said, all right, it's going to be a database of prohibited persons, not a database of pistol permit holders. Well, it's not who doesn't have a permit. That doesn't make you prohibited. It's a list of people who have been convicted of an offense which would render you incapable of carrying a gun. Yes. I still voted no on it because I don't like databases in gun bills. Even if it's supposed to be a prohibited persons, that could easily be expanded in the future to a permit holder database or something. So I went ahead and voted no on the bill. It needs to be, we need to pass constitutional carry clean, no amendments. That's what you need to tell everybody. All right? Because yes, if we pass, I don't want to do it halfway. I don't want to do some weak watered down bill. All right? So like I say, I will literally try to kill the bill myself if they water the bill down. We're either going to do it right or we're not going to do it. So will my 38 co-sponsors stick with me? If I go to the well and I say, look, we don't need to put this amendment on here because it creates different classes of people and different people can do different things with their gun depending on whether or not they have a permit. I don't know. I hope that my co-sponsors will trust me enough to stick with me and try to kill that amendment. But if bad amendments get on, we have a couple options. Number one, we can kill the bill. Or number two, we can send it up to the Senate, and then I can go work with the Senate sponsor to try to clean the bill up in the Senate. We can get the bad amendments stripped off in the Senate and send it back down for concurrence. So we have several opportunities to fix the bill if it gets amended poorly. So don't freak out initially if a bad amendment gets put on. We have multiple chances to fix it before it becomes law. We get it up to the Senate early in session, which I believe the first two or 3 weeks, I think it's up. It's going to the Senate. The Senate needs to move on it quickly and send it back down to us. We also have to have the votes to override a governor's veto. I don't think Kay Ivey will veto constitutional carry, especially not in an election year. But just in case she does, we need to get the bill back in time to have time to override the veto as well. Look, y'all, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that there's no way to kill this bill. There's 1,000 ways to kill a bill. It's very easy to kill a bill if they want to kill a bill. All I've been promised is a vote on the floor on constitutional carry. That's it. There's no guarantee the bill passes. There's no guarantee it passes the Senate. There's no guarantee the governor signs it. But all I would have had if I'd have done the amendment last year is a vote on the floor. We're no worse off. But I still remain very optimistic. I really think we're going to get the bill done this year. There are senators calling me asking for the bill. And when that starts happening, that lets me know the Senate knows the bill is passing as well. Exactly what you're talking about is why I care about auditor. The auditor position is really, really weak. The auditor position has been watered down over the last few decades. They've stripped all the important duties and responsibilities away from it. The financial audits in Alabama are not done by the state auditor. They're done by the examiners of public accounts, a 250-member employee behemoth organization, the head of which makes more money than the state auditor and the governor combined. All right? And to make matters worse, they run behind on their audits. So my local university can't renew their bonds because they don't have an audit in the last 12 months or whatever. They got to hire an independent auditor to come in and audit them. And then 6 months later, the examiners of public accounts show up and they got to go do another audit. Really, really inefficient, waste of time and money. I'm running for auditor because I want to save the position. I want to fight for the position and actually put some real teeth back in it because it's very weak. In Mississippi, they have an auditor named Shad White. He's got actual enforcement power, people in the office with a badge that can arrest people. And he catches people embezzling from the government all the time and gets them thrown in jail. Y'all should all follow Shad White on Facebook. It's really quite entertaining, all the people he catches.
That's if he catches them in business or he can audit their books. State auditor,
no. That's, in Alabama, you are correct. And I have a bill to fix that, and I introduced it this year. And what it does is it moves the Department of Public Examiners back under the state auditor's office where it should be. And when the framers framed the Alabama Constitution in 1901, they thought a lot of the auditor position. It was the 5th most powerful position in the government. And technically it still is today because it's still 5th in line for the governorship. It was ahead of the Secretary of State originally because it used to actually do financial audits, which was a really important function. Now, we would never think of auditors being above the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State is a very powerful and prestigious position today, whereas auditor is relatively weak. That's not how it used to be, and that's not how it should be. And I have a bill to fix that as well, and I introduced the bill this year. Wasn't able to get it passed, but that's the bill I'm going to be working with my friends in the legislature to pass should I get elected auditor. And yes, we've joked some about how Montgomery doesn't like me or whatever. I have a lot of friends in the legislature. Right? I got 38 people co-sponsored my bill. I mean, there are some people down there. Yeah. Sure, there are members of the establishment that don't like me very much down there. I'm not worried about that. Yeah, if your answer on constitutional carry is maybe, I'm just going to take that as a no. At this point, if you don't know where you stand on the bill, you're just a no. I mean, you're either for it or you're against it at this point. It's not a lack of education at this point because I've talked to everybody in the State House that will listen to me. I've already talked to about constitutional carry. We've gone over how the safety is not a concern. The safest state in the nation is Maine. They've had constitutional carry for 6 years. And by the way, they passed it with a Democrat-controlled state senate. So don't give me this nonsense about, we don't have enough Republicans to pass it, blah, blah, blah. We're one of the reddest states in the nation, and we don't have constitutional carry. 21 other states have it. Arizona passed it in 2011. They sell 3 times as many permits today as they did in 2011. So this whole nonsense about the sheriffs are going to lose all their revenue, that's not true either. We know that. We're not guinea pigs. We would be the 22nd state to pass constitutional carry. Any other questions?
But you said you're a conservative.
Yes.
Please tell me espouse your beliefs, because I don't care what a person says they are. I want to know your beliefs. If I know the beliefs, I know the man or woman. Tell me, what does being a conservative mean?
I love this question. He's asking what the word conservative means on the front of the card. Here's my answer when somebody asks me that question. What does being a conservative mean? That's the question. It means you're conserving something. And what are you conserving? My answer is freedom and liberty. That's the role of government, is to protect individual liberties and freedoms. And when you have people running for state legislature, ask them, why are you running for state house? None of them will ever tell you, oh, I'm going to Montgomery because I want to protect your freedom and liberty. I've never heard another person say that. But that's the right answer. That's the purpose of government. Government is there to make sure your liberties don't get infringed. So in the state house, I have the most conservative voting record. On the last 3 scorecards, I'm ranked number 1 in the legislature, most conservative. That's the Alabama Policy Institute. I got a perfect 100. The American Conservative Union, I was the only guy that got the Conservative Excellence Award last year. And the Club for Growth Foundation, the second place guy, was 21 points behind me. So when I say I'm a conservative, I have 3 scorecards backing that up. I do not vote for bills that raise your taxes. I do not vote for bills that grow the size and scope of government. And I do not vote for bills that infringe your liberties. And y'all, that weeds out a lot of bills. So I vote no more than any other member of the legislature. And that's not opinion, that's fact. You can check the voting record. I wear out the no button on my machine, and I don't care if it's a Republican that carried the bill or a Democrat. If it grows the size of government, if it raises your taxes, or if it infringes your liberties, I vote no on those bills. Hope I answered your question. Really appreciate you letting me speak tonight. I think I've gone long enough. I'll hang out if any of y'all want to talk to me one-on-one, ask me any questions. Thank you so much.